I want to ask you something that nobody in the self-help space really asks directly. So you finally find someone that is consistent, that shows up, who doesn't play games, who actually wants you, and something just feels off. Not wrong, not bad, just flat. Like they turn down the color on that particular relationship that you have. Like something was missing, but you could not name what it is. So you start to wonder, is this it? Is this what love's supposed to feel like? Why don't I feel more? And then the thought comes to you, the one that you typically don't say out loud. This is boring. I'm going to tell you what is actually happening when that thought shows up, because it's not about what you think. It's not about them. It's not about the chemistry, and it's certainly not about not being compatible. It's about what your nervous system was taught love was supposed to feel like. And until you see that, you will keep leaving that right person and returning to the wrong one. So you need to go back to your relationships and look at the history, because for most of your life, the relationships that feel the most alive tend to be the ones that cause the most pain, because we tend to gravitate to people that are emotionally unavailable. And sometimes we become obsessed with those people because the connection usually feels like you can never fully have it. Like the love is something that you have to earn to get it. And the moments of warmth, they come just enough to keep us reaching for more. And that feels like love. That feels like electricity. And then we meet someone who is kind, stable, available, someone who actually wants to be with us without any condition. And we don't feel anything. It's not cruelty, it's not a conscious choice to leave, it's just nothing. Like trying to tune to a frequency on radio that is not working. So we tell ourselves there's no chemistry, it was just not the right one. And we can't force something that doesn't have the spark. That's what we all say, right? And what I didn't know, and it took me some time to understand, was that the spark I was looking for is not love. It's the stress response, and I have been confusing those two my entire life. Here's how most people explain this. They say, you're attracted to unavailable people because of your childhood. You need to choose better. You're afraid of intimacy. You self-sabotage. All of those are true, but none of them go deep enough, because it still treats this like a thinking problem. Like you just have to understand your pattern intellectually and you can choose differently. But you can't think your way out of the body that has been wired to respond to chaos. The thing you're calling boredom isn't boredom at all. Boredom is a mental state. What you're actually experiencing is the absence of a chemical that your nervous system has been trained to need. And the absence of that chemical in a body that is used to it feels like flatness, like nothing is happening, like the relationship isn't real. It's kind of like using your phone. When you don't have your phone, life feels boring because you're not scrolling. That's how it feels. But here's the thing. The relationship that you were in or that you are currently in, it's real. You just don't have the internal reference point to recognize it. So when you are in a relationship built on anxiety, on inconsistency, on hot and cold, on the never knowing where you stand in that particular relationship, your body produces stress hormones constantly. It produces cortisol, adrenaline, the chemicals that are specifically designed for survival. And here's the part that nobody tells you. Those chemicals, they feel like intensity. They feel like you have this passion for this person, like you feel very deeply for them, and you feel more alive in a way that calm never produces. So when they pull away, cortisol spikes. When they come back, dopamine floods your brain, and the relief feels like love. The pursuit feels like desire. The anxiety feels like you care very deeply for this person. And your brain cannot tell the difference between love and the chemical loop. It just knows this person produces a feeling, a very strong feeling, and a strong feeling feels like meaning. And then when someone stable shows up in your life, someone who doesn't pull away, someone who doesn't play with your feelings, someone who doesn't create the spike and the crush, your cortisol levels, they stay flat. Your dopamine doesn't flood your brain and your body feels calm. And feeling peace, feeling calm to a nervous system addicted to stress chemistry doesn't feel like love. It feels like nothing. It feels like you're bored. It feels like withdrawal. It feels like you need to end the relationship. But there's something deeper underneath the chemistry, something that was built even earlier, before you ever had a romantic relationship. You had your family, and in that family you learn what love looks like, what love feels like, and what it asks of you. If love in your house was unpredictable, sometimes warm, sometimes cold, sometimes present, sometimes withdrawn, your nervous system built a model around all of that. And in that environment, love feels uncertain. Love feels like something you have to earn. Love feels like something you work for, fight for, or you prove yourself worthy of. And that model becomes your bubble reality, the internal definition of what love should feel like. And now, as an adult, every relationship you enter gets filtered through that model. So when a relationship matches that model, when it has tension, uncertainty, emotional labor, it feels like love, because it matches the picture your nervous system built for what love should feel like. And when a relationship doesn't match that model, when it feels stable, consistent, warm without conditions, it doesn't feel like love. It just doesn't fit the picture your nervous system created for what love should feel like. Now, it's not that love is not existing in that relationship, but your definition of love never included safety in this whole structure. So you are not bored with this person. You are in a relationship with your bubble reality that doesn't recognize safety as something that belongs with the feeling of love. And this is the layer that most people never reach. Underneath the chemistry, underneath the bubble reality, there's an identity, a set of beliefs about who you are in a relationship. I am someone who earns love. I am someone who loves deeply and gets hurt. I am someone who fights for connection. I am someone who sees the potential in broken people and helps them become complete. That identity has a role and it has a function and it has a story to play out. In that chaotic relationship, that identity is busy. It has a purpose. There is always something to manage, to fix, to prove, to recover from. But in a healthy relationship, that identity has nothing to do. There's no one to save, no wound to heal, no approval to earn, no abandonment, nothing to prepare for. And when your identity has no role to play, it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like emptiness. So you don't miss the chaos in the relationship. You miss having a purpose in that relationship. And your nervous system has been wired to find that purpose inside of someone else's pain. And this is where the ego comes in. Because the ego has one job in a relationship: to feel chosen. And the ego doesn't measure being chosen by consistency, it measures it by contrast. So when someone pursues you after pulling away, the ego feels chosen. When someone chooses you over uncertainty, the ego feels chosen. When someone's behavior changes because of something you did, the ego feels powerful. It feels needed. It feels significant. But in a healthy relationship, someone simply chooses you every single day without drama, without inconsistency, without having to earn it. And the ego doesn't know what to do with that because there's no contrast. There's no before and there's no after. No moment of being chosen that stands out against a backdrop of withdrawal. So the ego interprets steady love as indifference. Not because there's no love there, because the ego can't feel love without the relief of having almost lost it. This is why people in healthy relationships convince themselves that the other person doesn't care enough, that they would fight harder if it meant more, that the calm means something is wrong. The feeling of calm simply means that nothing is wrong, but the ego needs the storm to feel the shelter. So what you're calling boring is not boring at all. Boring is an empty Tuesday with nothing to do. Boring is a conversation that has nowhere to go. Boring is the absence of life. What you're calling boring in a healthy relationship is this: safety, consistency, presence, calm, peace. Your nervous system has never lived there before. It doesn't have the map for this particular territory So it's gonna default to the only thing that it knows, the chaotic stuff, the toxic relationships, the inconsistency, the lack of safetyness, the lack of presence. So when you find healthy love, it defaults to the only explanation it has. Nothing is happening. This must not be love. But something is happening. The most important thing that can happen in a relationship is actually happening in that relationship. You are not in danger. That is not boring. That is the one thing you have been searching for your entire life. It just doesn't feel like love because your nervous system doesn't recognize it. And the day you stop chasing the feeling and start building the foundation is the day love becomes something you actually hold instead of something that you always try to hold on to. And here's what happens when you don't see it. You are in a healthy relationship. It feels flat, the identity gets restless, the ego gets concerned, the nervous system starts reaching for stimulation. So you start testing the person. You don't do it consciously, you don't do it deliberately, but you start picking fights that don't need to happen. You pull back slightly, you see if they chase. You create a small moment of uncertainty just to feel a little bit of relief and resolution. You try to recreate the loop because the loop is the only thing that feels like love, because that's the only thing that the body knows. And one of two things happen. Either they play along and you have successfully turned a healthy relationship into a chaotic one, and now it feels like love again, or they don't play along. They stay steady, they don't chase, they don't escalate, and you interpret their steadiness not as caring, but as a sign that this person is gonna leave. In both cases, you never experience what healthy love actually is because you dismantle it before you can even become familiar with it. This is not self-sabotage in a way that most people use the word. This is a nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do to protect yourself by recreating the familiar, because the healthy, it's not creating it. And you do this even if you know that this is gonna hurt you. And I get it, you don't want a boring relationship. Nobody wants boring, but that's not the issue. The issue is that what you have been calling exciting is a traumatic response, and what you've been calling boring is an unfamiliar nervous system state. The work that you have to do is not to find someone that's more exciting. It's becoming someone whose nervous system can tolerate the peace that that relationship brings you. And that means sitting with the discomfort of calm without feeling it with chaos. It means letting someone be consistent without testing whether they mean it or not. It means noticing when the identity gets restless and choosing not to act from it. It means recognizing the flatness and recognizing that for what it is. It's not withdrawal. It's not a sign that the relationship is going wrong. It simply means that the person may be busy and nothing is going on. But this takes time. It takes repetition. It takes the kind of nervous system work that changes what your body expects from love. But on the other side of this, a relationship that doesn't cost you everything isn't boring. It's the first relationship you ever actually been present for. So if this video explains something that you felt but never had the words for, that truly matters. Naming it is the first step, not fixing it, not performing your way into a healthy relationship, just seeing it clearly enough to stop blaming the wrong person. And the thing is that you're not broken because healthy love feels strange. You are someone whose nervous system learned love inside of chaos, and that has never been taught to you. You were never taught how healthy love feels like. And that is not a life sentence. This is something that you can change. That is the work that we teach here at Trueform. So I hope that this video answered a lot of the questions that you have about why you feel bored in that particular relationship. And now you understand a little bit more. If you like the video, go ahead and give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And I would like to invite you to leave a comment to let me know if you ever walked away from a relationship that felt too boring. I'll see you on the next one.